Today we're going to talk about Donald Trump squandering the final few weeks of this campaign with a major misstep, and I sit down with the Democratic nominee for the U.S. Senate in Texas, Allred, about Texas being in play for the Democrats, Ted Cruz's inability to give a straight answer on abortion, and his thoughts as a former NFL player on how the game's changed since he was a Tennessee Titan. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're watching No Lie. Okay, if you're looking for confusing, why is Donald Trump spending these final, crucial last few weeks of the presidential campaign by doing events in Colorado, California, Illinois, and New York? States that Joe Biden won in 2020 by an average of 20 points. The closest state is Illinois, which Trump lost by 13 points. These are not swing states. These are out-and-out blue states. So what's he doing? Now, there are two camps of answers here. The first is, I guess, the sane-washed version, that Trump is going to Coachella here in California because he's offering down-ballot support to those Republicans out there like Ken Calvert and CA41, or that he's going to Madison Square Garden in New York because he wants to help Republican Anthony D'Esposito out on Long Island, with both seats at risk of being flipped by Democrats in November. And as we all know, Donald Trump is the first one to act in service of others. I'm sure that he saw those endangered Republicans and thought to himself, let's put my own ambition aside for a moment and focus on other people. So this is why I say sane washing. Donald Trump does not care about anyone not named Donald Trump. We have watched as he has plowed through people and cast them aside without a care in the world the moment they lose their usefulness. Ronna McDaniel, Kayleigh McEnany, Michael Cohen, Paul Manafort, George Papadopoulos, Sidney Powell, Nikki Haley. The list here is endless. And so while a normal presidential candidate might look to lift up endangered House Republicans, this is not a normal presidential candidate. And the media presumably knows who Trump is by now and how he is by now. So why they continue to confer normal people qualities onto an abnormal person is beyond me. But they've shown very little interest in viewing this race through any lens other than politics as usual. Now, here's the more likely reasons. I've got two, one a little bit more cynical than the other. The first is that Donald Trump, perhaps rightly, understands that the media environment today is nationalized, and that by doing a splashy event at Madison Square Garden in New York, he could get media attention from a media that has largely ignored his usual rallies, and then hope to gain some benefit, even in those swing states like Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, from people who catch it on cable news, which isn't the worst idea in the world. But I still don't think a rally in New York is going to do a ton to move the needle in Nevada, especially in the aftermath of the Hillary Clinton campaign, which in 2016 ignored Wisconsin. It's not like she wasn't getting media attention, but ignored Wisconsin, and of course, that didn't exactly redound to her electoral benefit. Now, here's the more cynical read. Donald Trump has said over and over and over that he thinks he's going to win New York. You know that he would love to win his home state more than anything because those are the people that he really seeks validation from. Now, I think that he surrounded himself with enough yes men and sycophants who tell him that he is God's gift to the world to the point where he actually believes that he has a chance to win in New York. Like, this is the same delusion that's responsible for him thinking that the world respects him when the world laughs at him, the same delusion that's responsible for him thinking that the autocrats view him as one of them when in actuality they just see him as a useful idiot. Trump only believes what he wants to believe. And so if some mouthpiece who's taken up residence in his colon tells him, "Sir, you're going to win New York, sir. We've never seen a Republican with this much energy in New York, sir," then of course the guy is going to think that he can flip the state of New York. Donald Trump's North Star is that everybody loves Trump, and anyone who says that people don't love Trump is just lying. Heads I win, tails you lose. So if you're looking for an example of this guy's brain rot on full display, it is a Republican spending his precious final few weeks before the election campaigning in New York and California. That's just a small sampling of the stellar judgment that you get if Donald Trump becomes the next president. Which leads me, by the way, to this quick public service announcement. If you have the opportunity to vote early, either in person or by mail, do it now. Do not wait. Here's the deal. Campaigns know if you voted. They don't know who you voted for, but they know if you voted. So do them a favor and vote so that they don't have to waste their valuable resources, their limited resources, trying to turn you out to vote if you already know that you're going to be a voter. And instead, this way they can focus that attention on actual undecided voters. Also, don't leave it up to chance with the post office or with your ballot arriving after Election Day. Just get it in as soon as possible. Help us build this firewall that we need to win, and let's bring this thing home. Next up is a preview of my interview with Allred. The hurricanes that are battering the southeast right now kind of bring into focus the fact that Texas also has dealt with a raft of extreme weather events recently. Ted Cruz famously opted to skip town during a freeze that chilled the entire state, heading out to the Ritz-Carlton in Cancun, which he ultimately blamed on his daughter. Seeing the devastation wrought onto Americans in the wake of Hurricane Helene and then Hurricane Milton, what does it say about Cruz that this guy's gut reaction was just to skip town for a 5-star hotel?
That's right. Well, what we're seeing is, of course, horrific, and my prayers are with the folks in North Carolina and Florida, all the impacted areas. What was happening in Texas at that time was so much worse than a freeze, and I think that folks might not remember how bad it was here. The power was out almost statewide, and many cities were under boil water advisories because the water plants were out, and so you had to boil your water before you could even drink it. And it was for multiple days and nearly a week without power in the energy capital of the world, while it was also freezing outside.
Yeah.
And, hundreds of Texans died. This was the single biggest insurance event in Texas history because so many pipes burst and then flooded homes, and so much damage was done across the state. But there's very few things. In fact, in my life, I've never known of any weather event that hit the entire state of Texas at once the way this did. If you can imagine having the privilege and the responsibility of representing 30 million Texans, and when this kind of a horrific storm hits, where these things are happening, where people are burning whatever wooden objects they can find to stay warm, and you think to yourself, I wonder if this is a good time to go to Cancun on vacation. I mean, it just wouldn't occur to any normal person. It wouldn't, it just wouldn't, because you would think I have to act, I have to help. Normal people think this, much less somebody who is a United States senator. And the only reason he came back, or that anyone knew about it, is because it was posted on the internet by folks who saw him in the airport and who could not believe. In fact, I think they posted him on their flight. They're like, I can't believe he's going to Cancun during this. That's the only reason. And then, like you said, to come back and to blame your children for it is cowardly in the least, right? Yeah. But it's a perfect example of how he sees the job, which is that if it's not about him, if it's not getting him attention, if it's not getting him, some whatever he's searching for, then he's not interested.
Right. It's just like Donald Trump in the sense that he is there to serve himself and his brand, and views the people of Texas as a way to serve him, basically, not to have him serve them. With that said, how are you reaching out to the Latino population in Texas? So obviously, there have been issues with Democrats in the Rio Grande Valley, for example. How do you stop the momentum continuing to go in Republicans' direction in a place like the Rio Grande Valley?
Yeah, well, my family's from the Rio Grande Valley, from Brownsville, and spent a lot of my childhood there. And so we have a personal connection to it that I think is important. But we're meeting folks where they are, and we're communicating, both in English and in Spanish. But we're also talking about the issues that really matter to folks in the Valley and to Latinos across Texas. And I think that in some ways, at times, Democrats have gotten on the wrong side of really important economic issues that matter. And we have made sure not only that Latinos know that that's not who I am, but that they know that I'm going to make sure we invest in our economy and opportunity and the right to retire with dignity. And this is our largest, group in the state of Texas. It's part of our, our diversity is part of our strength. I embrace that. I think it's what makes us so strong. And it's also going to, I think, help us deliver a coalition to elect a United States senator that can then bring our entire state together around our shared values.
To see the full interview with Colin Allred, click the thumbnail right here on the screen or check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. You can also click the link on the screen to listen to the audio version of this episode, and of course to see more of my content, the subscribe button's on the screen as well.